Okay, so it's time to look at countermeasures. Every good pen tester or security expert must be able to recommend countermeasures to help prevent many, if not all, of the attacks we have discussed. First, we want to make sure that we have disabled the storage of the LM hash. Keep in mind that as long as you're using Windows Vista or Server 2008 and later, the storage of the LM hash is already disabled. I work with many banking institutions around the globe, and many of them are just now in the process of migrating from Windows XP to Windows 7.
Interesting.
Which means that many of those that were still using Windows XP were still storing the LM hash, unless of course we had been there and were able to make some recommendations previously. Now, disabling the storage of the LM hash is done in 2 steps.
That's right, Lori. Now, first we have to create a group policy object called no LM hash. Easy enough. Then we navigate to the location listed here on the slide and enable the setting network security. Do not store LAN manager hash value on the next password change. And there you go. Really, that's it. It's all fixed. Or is it? We also need to disable the LM authentication. Now, to do that, we create another group policy object called, guess, no LM auth client, right? We navigate to the same location as before and enable the setting network security LAN manager authentication level, and we have to set that to send NTLM responses only. This will disable the use of LM hashes and the LM authentication for the future, but it does not remove any of the previously stored LM hash values.
Now, we have many other types of countermeasures, as we would expect, and one of my personal favorites is the use of system encryption. Many of the manufacturers of hard drives have developed self-encrypting drives, which makes things very simple for you and me and you and me.
Especially me. Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that a self-encrypted drive will ever perform at the level of a standard drive, but I will state that self-encrypted drives are designed to encrypt the data, remove the need of CPU and memory from the physical system to do the encryption, and place it directly on the hard drive. Now, when you compare a system that uses a Microsoft BitLocker drive encryption to a system using a self-encrypting hard drive, you will see a much better performing system on the self-encrypting hard drive on the laptop or computer. It does minimize the performance bottleneck, hands down.
It does, yeah. And Windows 7 and Windows 8 do provide a BitLocker drive encryption, which works very well. Now, there are many other encryption companies on the market today, not only for your desktop or laptop, but also for enterprise systems, including virtual machines. Now, if you can utilize a tool like BitLocker, it's recommended that you only utilize it on systems with a trusted platform module, as this will be able to lock the system prior to the operating system being booted. Now, if the computer won't boot to the Windows OS prior to the entering of a password, the hard drive encryption can be cracked. Now, this is interesting. Individuals at Princeton University demonstrated how you can freeze memory and extract the encryption key so that you can then decrypt the hard drive when the trusted platform module is not being used by the encryption software.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, this is a picture of multiple types of RSA tokens. Yes, these are some old pictures, but that is irrelevant as it is just an example of the type of multiple factor authentication mechanisms available to us today. One of the ways to help prevent the easy theft of a password is to use something like this, where the user has to not only enter the password, he or she also has to enter something else along with the password. This method combines something you know with something you have, and it makes it much more difficult for a hacker to capture or steal passwords. Now, yes, hackers have created their own working RSA tokens. They have also stolen data from RSA, but that doesn't mean that someone who uses this technology is an easy target. Any organization that is using any form of multiple factor authentication is a much more difficult target for the hacker.
Absolutely. And one of the other multi-factor authentication methods is simply utilizing a smart card. or a USB authentication token. Now you'll see this used around the globe, and it has proven to be an effective method of preventing stolen passwords. The hacker must have one of these devices or must have recreated one of these devices in order to gain access to the system.
Which is a really good measure.